Good morning. How is everybody doing this morning? I've started a few minutes early just because I wasn't paying attention to the time and I was all organized and ready to go after all this restful holiday eating and drinking and spending time with family. I was all ready to get back to dog training. So, how is everybody this morning? Hopefully, you've had a chance to have a great holiday and have lots of great questions for me. So, if you're here, let me know. Send me some hearts, some likes, ask me a question, and I would be happy to answer them for you. Okay, so for those who don't know me, my name is Paula Hoger. I own Shake-a-Paw Dog Training in South Mountain, Ontario, which is south of Ottawa. Yeah, so before I get started today, while people are signing in, I wanted to thank you very much for joining me. And then if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. I will check back throughout the just moving them to make sure I see them. I will check back throughout. Hello, Nicole. How are you? I will check back throughout the live. Jen has a question. My new puppy bites everything. What can we do? I will get to that in a minute. Let me finish my greeting blurb and then we'll get to that. Julie, just for you, I wanted to thank you very much. Look what Julie bought me. It's a border collie mask. I love it. Thank you so much, Julie. Good morning, Karen. How are you? I had a lovely Christmas. Okay, so before I wanted to get started on the questions, I wanted to talk about goal setting. Next week is New Year's, and New Year's is the time we all make resolutions, these wonderful resolutions. So, unfortunately, by usually maybe a week or two into January, if you're really good, maybe February, those resolutions are a thing of the past and they go off. And every year we do this, and every year we go through this. This year, I want you to make goal setting not only doable, but when goal setting is done right, and trust me, I'm not an expert by any means. Sometimes I do it right and sometimes I do it wrong. But when goal setting is done right, it actually inspires you instead of disappointing you because you're like, oh, I didn't do that again. And then you guilt trip yourself. That's not the point of goal setting. Goal setting should inspire you. I definitely have goals that I remind myself before every training session or personal goals that I try to remind myself every day, and just saying them every day to myself helps me to stay on track. So that's what I want you to think about of dog training. I want you to pick one thing, one small thing, not an overwhelming goal, one small thing like this year I commit to teaching my dog to walk on a loose leash. And you will spend, and you know what? You're going to try stuff and it doesn't work, and that's okay. The point is that is your goal. I promise you, if you look at it over time, you will get better. And this is where I can help you, but I want you to pick something that'll inspire you. So pick one thing, one behavior you want to change on your dog, one little thing. And then from that little thing, I want you to write down your first step. The first step you have to do, because I find a lot of times with goals, we put these big goals, but then we're like, what's the first step? And we're like, we have no idea what the first step is. And if you can't do the first step, it'll be impossible to do the second step. So I would love for you to share them with me. So give me your one goal that you're going to fix this year. And don't even worry about next month or whatever. Let's just look at one goal for the year. You can make a list of goals, and if you go through one, you can go to the next one. But just one goal. Don't stress too much about time, just one goal. And then your first step. So for me, Wicca's my 10-month-old border collie puppy, for those that don't know. And Wicca's recall has always gotten 100 times better than it was, but I would still like to see it better. So my goal for January is to improve her recall. My goal for the year is to improve her recall. My goal for January, my first step is before every single training session, we will do 10 recalls before and at the end of every single training session. Wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I will do 10 recalls. My job is to make them successful, because calling her and her not coming is not going to help me. So whatever situation we're in, whatever mood she's in, because she's 10 months old, so she's hormonal, I have to set it up so it's successful. So let's say I go to my agility barn and I let her run around and I call her and she's like, meh. Okay, then I'll clip her leash on and we'll do 10 recalls on leash. So make sure you give yourself um, the opportunity to be successful. Doing the same thing over and over that isn't working is not going to help you. I have a new program starting in January called Canine Reset Program, and it's going to be based on this concept. Every month you get a training plan and you get feedback from me all month long. And so what we're going to do is step by step outline what I want you to work on for that month to achieve your final goals. Okay. So, let's go back to make sure you share your goals and your first step. And now we're going to go back to questions. Okay, let's start with Jen. Jen, my new puppy bites everything. What can we do? Okay, Jen. So my first question is, do you mean bites stuff or bites you? Puppies bite. And actually, my question from the comments before from Patty, biting dragons, 11-week-old Aussie. So puppies bite. Everybody agrees puppies bite. What can you do about it? Depending on the age we're talking about, I know with Patty, her Aussie's 11 weeks, so really young. Wicked definitely went through the first 3 to 4 weeks I owned her. She would lie on my lap, and if I gave her like a bully stick, a chewy, she would chew on the chewy. Probably by week 3 to 4, pretty well didn't matter what I did. She wouldn't chew on the chewy. She would attack me. So I didn't hold her on my lap. Like I went like a month where I left the puppy. She could be out. She could be playing with her toys. I could reward her, but I didn't ask her to sit on my lap and be pet. She wasn't capable of doing that at that time in her life. Not all puppies are this bad. She was bad. My next part of that, so that's the management, that's not letting it happen. Remember our 3 steps to problem solving. The first step is prevention. My next step was, and this goes with my handling, there's using, it's your choice. So my dogs understand there's a bowl of food, not to touch it. And I will, if you go through my Canine Essentials, there's definitely a video, but I can post the link to the video. So then they're lying down. I use my ottoman in my living room. She's lying down. She has her bowl of food in front of her. And then I go, can I touch your head? Here's a cookie. Can I touch your leg? Here's a cookie. If she goes to bite me when I touch her, I just sit back, cover the bowl, wait till she settles down. Can I pet you? So this is handling, and then there's petting. I work those 2 parts to end up with a dog who doesn't bite. Puppies will outgrow the biting if, and this is the big if, you do not allow it to become a habit, meaning every time you touch them, they bite you. Okay. Thank you, Julie. Okay, Peggy, my 9-month-old Morkie keeps biting my husband's diabetic feet. Suggestions for training the dog. So my question to you with a 9-month-old Yorkie is, what happens when your Morkie bites your husband's feet? Do you guys react right away because he's diabetic? Understandable. And is that giving her reinforcement? Like she's bored, she's got nothing to do, she goes attacks your husband's feet, and you're all like, ah, right? So that would be reinforcing her by giving her attention. So the first step would be management. So is it at night when you're watching TV? She could be tied to something like a coffee table leg or a couch leg on her pillow with something to chew, giving her the opportunity to practice seeing the feet and not biting them. Another prevention could be he wears shoes. For example, I was at a friend's house who recently got an adorable little, it's an 8-week-old cattle dog. And I was wearing socks because I'd just been in their house for a minute. And the dog was attached to my feet pretty well the whole time I was there. And she's like, oh, that dog never bites me. She was wearing Crocs. I wasn't. So just the simple, again, it's all the first step to problem solving is prevention. With puppies, if you can prevent it from becoming reinforced, a lot of behaviors will just fade, such as the biting feet. So wearing Crocs for a while could stop her from getting that habit. She already has it, it'll be a little harder, but still giving her something else to do. So Peggy, if you're around, tell me when she's biting your feet and we can come back to that question. App. Any tips of saving and starting to train a dog who was used in dog bait and dog fighting and was extremely that word to other animals and dogs? Okay, Ab, this is way past what I'm going to cover. I will give you some tips, but please contact me or somebody else for training. This is way past the level that's going to be covered in a Facebook Live. Good for you for taking this dog. And the great thing about dogs like this is as they learn to live again and trust you, you will see amazing recovery. But done incorrectly, this dog can still be pretty dangerous. So yeah, please contact me or somebody else. But the first step is preventing it. Like always, the first step in problem solving is preventing it from happening. How would I prevent it from happening? Meaning, be super careful of exposure. You can't go for a walk down the street because you might see a dog, your dog might react. So that's the first step. The next step would be I'd be pairing. Um, check out my reactive dogs Facebook lives, but I'd be maybe going somewhere where you can predict the path of a dog, such as a pet store parking lot. So you stand far enough away that your dog can handle it and pair. The sight of the dog, you get rewarded. The sight of a dog, you get rewarded. But again, this is way past the level of this live, but that will give you started. I would not be doing this work until the dog was totally comfortable with you. Karen, you're going to work on Landy's recall. Recall, you know what? You can have a really well-behaved dog without a sit. You cannot have a really well-behaved dog without a come when called. That recalls are one of those foundation exercises you can't get around. Nicole, I have a kind of a long one. I have a 1.5-year-old border collie, lab cross, who has started to show some aggression guarding. It started with guarding when she was somewhere other than at home, and I noticed she was getting snappy with dogs at the park over sticks. But then the other day, she got into an actual scrap at the park with a familiar dog she usually plays with. Earlier that same day in the woods, she saw a family walking with a small kid and she froze and started growling at them. It scared them. I don't know where this is all coming from, where to even start. Nicole and everybody. So dogs hit adolescence approximately 5-6 months old and usually start to come out of it, most of it between around a year and a half, 2. But I have found defense drive, which this is, can come out even up to 3. So we have another question of alert parking. All the same thing. How they respond to those behaviors is all hormones kicking in. And it's normal, but you have to, again, mitigate the response so it doesn't become a habit. There is a lot of dogs when they hit over a year that cannot do off-leash parks. In fact, the off-leash parks may be your problem because she is constantly being put into situations where she feels she needs to guard, and guarding is a learned behavior. The more she practices it, the more likely she will default to that behavior. So I would stop taking her to the off-leash park. Feel free to go with dogs she's familiar with, 1 or 2, and take them for a run. That's great, but not that off-leash park unless it's a super quiet off-leash park and there's only a couple of dogs there. I just don't want her being put in that situation where she feels she needs to guard. And she must because she's doing it. So my question to you, Nicole, is how comfortable is she with strangers walking down the street? Yeah, answer me that and I'll get back to that. So border collies can be a little weird, a little woohoo, having had a few of them, worked with piles of them. I see it often. Um, it's the exact same thing as I said earlier to the lady with the dog. I would be um, working on pairing, depending how, answer me about how good she is with strangers, and then I'll continue that answer. Jen, both 8 weeks old. Back to Jen, what was your question? Oh yeah, 8 weeks old. Yeah, totally bitey. So I did, when I was holding my 8-week-old puppy in my lap, there was always a chew thing in her mouth, and a high end like a bully stick or something like that. Her job was to stay on that. If she couldn't stay on that, then I would put her on the ground. Um, I hate being bit. It's a thing. Peggy, this is sitting or walking. Otherwise, his bite inhibition is pretty good. So interesting enough, I do not let my dogs bite me to teach bite inhibition. I believe bite inhibition is taught when you reward them, because they have to learn to control their mouth for me to let go of the food. So I never allow my dogs to bite me, because I, I, to me, it's practicing biting, and I don't want them biting. I want them to understand my body parts should never be in your mouth, period. So the sitting, the walking, you could use, like I said, Crocs, slippers, something that will make you guys not react to her biting, and therefore it be unexciting. The sitting, I would have her tied up so she just can't. And that way he can take his shoes off. Hello, Nadine. Andrea, how to introduce my new puppy to my 2-year-old. Andrea, is your 2-year-old dog reactive or anything like that? Usually with puppies, I bring them in, they're in an X pen in my house or in a crate. This allows my older dog to start getting used to the puppy, and the puppy to start getting used to the older dog, without the older dog having to deal with puppy attached to face the whole time. My puppies don't have a pile of house freedom. Usually they get actual face-to-face contact outside on a walk. So again, the adult dog doesn't have to deal with a lot of puppy jumping at them, but because the puppy has lots of stuff to do outside, right? We're going for a walk, so there's stuff to sniff. They'll harass the older dog, but then move on to something else. So that's how I do it. I do a lot of taking my time, introduce the dogs, but in a way that they can't touch, like an X pen. That's worked pretty well for me, other than once, and that was more the adult dog problem, not the puppy. Nadine, clicker training, yay or nay? Clickers are a tool. They are a wonderful tool. I don't use them often, but I have used them and will use them once in a while. This is why I don't use them with my clients. I find there's more than enough to do to give them one more thing to do, which is click, makes it challenging for them. But I use the concept of clicker training, which is a marker, all the time. So if you ever watch me train or have seen videos of me training, I say yes, that is my marker word. That replaces the clicker. Clickers are really good for very specific tasks, like if I wanted my dog to go to the wall and put his nose on the wall and leave it there, the clicker is very specific. Yes, is being a bigger word, gives you more reward time. So I find for 99% of what I do, my yes works fine, and it's always with me, and I don't have to remember to bring it and all that stuff. So clicker training is great. The concepts are amazing. I just don't always use a clicker. Shelly, hello. How to stop dog barking every time someone comes to the door. So we can't remember our problem solving thing. Prevent, alternative, and practice. So the first step would be preventing. You have to create some, and then the alternative. So you have to create a different behavior. You could do, before I answer the door, you have to go in a crate, and you don't come back out till you're calm and quiet for at least 3 minutes. So right away, that's going to reduce the barking at the door. Let's face it, dogs are dogs, dogs bark. But this is what happens when we bring a puppy home. Every person who comes in the house goes, oh, it's a puppy, and makes a humongous big deal. And we reinforce this excited behavior at the door over and over and over. And then the dog's a little older, and now we hold him back as people come in, and then we let him go. It's like revving him up. Ready, 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 go. Getting a worse and worse excitement at the door. If you start creating a different behavior right from puppy, my puppies are in an X pen when people come over. And honestly, my door manners aren't great, but I don't make a big deal of it. I usually am not even, most people walk into my house, so they just come in, the dogs say hello, I get there in a minute. There's really not a pile of barking um, because people just walk in, there's not that knock and then the wait. So I would create a different behavior, such as going to your bed, going in a crate, going in the backyard. I've used quite a bit. So the doorbell rings, I go to the backyard, I toss the dogs outside, then I answer the door when the dogs are calm, I let them in. Does that help, Shelley? If you want to tell me more, is it the barking or is it how they behave when people come in the door? Is it once the people are in, they don't stop barking? Be a little, give me a little more detail and I'll come back to it. Peggy. Peggy, yes, he yells at him to stop. I told him to wear shoes, but he resists. Untrainable hubs. Haha, I'll tell him what you said. Um, so yeah, husbands are challenging sometimes. As much as possible, I try to prevent my dogs from doing behaviors that are gonna annoy my family. So it's my job to train my dogs, but it's their job to follow the rules. For example, Wicca is the first dog I've trained with my husband and my son home because of COVID all the time. My husband has always been super good about not reinforcing my dogs for jumping, but she's so cute and she's his little girl. And now she jumps really bad on him and on everybody because both my son and my husband reinforce the jumping. She jumps on them, they say hello. But the other day, something happened and he yelled at her for jumping on him. And I'm like, no, 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 no. These are the rules. You've rewarded jumping this many times. So therefore, you cannot yell at her when she jumps on you. You've created this behavior. She doesn't really jump on me that much. I'm not saying never, but not like that. So you have to be, it is your job to train your dogs not to bite your husband, but he has to be helpful. So I would, as much as possible, manage when you can, like when you're watching TV, stuff like that. But at the same time, explain to him if he doesn't want to wear shoes, he doesn't get to yell at the dog. See how that goes. I know, husbands, it's a challenge. You know, you love them, but Karen, he is intact and 2 years old. Hold on, Karen. Now I have to remember. Karen, I'm going to walk. Oh, Karen, you have the border collie. Is it the border collie who's guarding? Sorry, I lost track of Karen. Karen, answer me back. Is it the border collie who's guarding? That he's intact and 2 years old? There's a bunch of debate on neutering. Would that help with the reactivity? Not sure. There's a lot of debate about it right now, whether neutering helps with react or aggression of any kind. I can get you articles that agree to both sides of that. Yeah, it's a good idea. No, it's not. Nicole, with walking down the street, some people she doesn't even pay attention to. Others she flips out, and she especially flips out when she sees other unfamiliar dogs. Okay, you were the 1.5-year-old border collie who was reacting. Nicole, I want you to stop walking her. Do more organized exposure. What I mean by that is give her exercise, find ways to exercise her, but then, and this is hard if you're, I'm not sure where you are, but if you're like here, there's snow on the ground, this became much more challenging. But go places where she can see things coming. So parking lots, again, I use parking lots a lot. I'll go stand outside a store, and that way when you're walking, the world constantly changes. So if you're already in a certain level of stress, add anything new and you're going to react much more. When you're standing still, she can get familiar and comfortable with that immediate area. So when you add something new, she's much more mentally capable of dealing with the new. And that's what I'd be working on with her right now. I'd be doing that pairing thing. Check out my Facebook Lives on reactive dogs. But so somebody new comes in, she focuses, reward, 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 the person's gone. So it's Pavlov's dog, right? It's classical conditioning. You see a person, good things happen. You see a person, good things happen. You see a person, good things happen. She goes, oh, look, I see a person. A couple of things can happen. She will pair the sight of a person with looking at you and getting rewarded. Fine. She will, because eventually you'll stop rewarding, but the sight of the person causing her to go into fear is gone. She'll look at the person and kind of just be like, hey, it's a person, whatever. But that's what you have to start giving her, putting her in situations where she gets to practice building value for strangers or dogs, and take her out of situations where she gets to feed into that. Oh my God, it's somebody new. I don't know what to do. So yeah, try those things. Andrea. So everybody loves dogs, Andrea. So that's great. She likes to lick inside of mouth. I was told that it's submissive behavior, but he hasn't grown out of it. How can I get her to stop doing this? Uh, so, I think puppies lick their, no, I don't know where she gets the licking the inside of mouths, but I don't believe it's a submissive behavior. It's just a behavior. So I wouldn't, 2-year-old lab plays with other dogs, likes to lick the insides of mouths. I'd let that one go. I'd just be like, okay, this is what you do. Um, take, so has her and your puppy met through an X-Pen or whatever? Are you at all worried about her with the puppy? Are you worried about the puppy? Are you worried about her? Tell me. Karen, recall. He is amazing, but his recall sucks now. Yeah, it's amazing. Recalls are one of those things with some dogs, especially, that you constantly have to build it. Mostly because we constantly do things that take away power from the recall. Like he's chasing a bunny. We call him a couple of times. He's like, yeah, I'm chasing a bunny. That takes out value from your recall. That's teaching them it's optional. So you constantly want to put money in that bank. I remember one of my border collies, Spec, had the best recall I've ever had of any dog I've ever owned. But you know what? He carried a toy when he ran. So anytime I called him, it was right there. He'd pass me his toy. I'd tug with him. So I was reinforcing every recall. He never left my side. But again, natural behavior, not something I trained. So between those two things, he had the best recall because I never took money out of that bank because it was so easy to reinforce him. He didn't leave me. And when I called him, he always had a toy in his mouth to tug with. Wicca has always, she is very socially sensitive. So if I put pressure when I call, she's like, oh no, I can't. And it's getting better, but she's not that food driven. She's had Giardia, so she's not feeling well, so even less food driven. She's semi toy driven, but when she's not feeling well, she's not toy driven. Well, you know what? Sometimes I need to call you and I can't reward you. So I'm taking power out of that recall. So recalls are something you constantly have to be not necessarily giving them cookies, but reinforcing them, actively reinforcing them. DL Banks. Hello, Kenzie is 19 months old and still very scared. Any tips? I tried to distract her, but if a loud sound, she is done. I talked about this in a couple of weeks ago in a live. Start to work. Okay, so there's a couple of things. One, you have to build confidence. And again, guys, some of this stuff is way past what I can cover in a live. If you're interested, message me. I do remote, and remote and local consults. Well, everybody's remote till January 23rd because we're shut down. But yeah, and we can get further into this. Yes, Nicole, ODR game. ODR game all the time. Have I not said ODR game today? ODR game. It's all ODR game. Kenzie is 9 months. Okay. So with Kenzie, she's in that very still spooky, weird age that they get to, and it gets better as long as you don't let this stuff become a habit. ODR game is definitely what I would work on, but your first goal is to build her confidence. I will work the noise sensitivities by doing something like, what does Kenzie love? Does Kenzie love retrieving? Does Kenzie love tugging? Does Kenzie love dinner? What does Kenzie love? So then make a little noise while you're doing what Kenzie loves. That could be a noise recorded on your phone. I've done stuff like drop a food bowl while we're tugging. And at first I just tap it, tug, tug, tug. Then I bang it, then I drop it. Now we're tugging, they hear the food bowl, you see them see it, but then they're like, screw it, I'll go back to tugging. Well, that was one way to start overcoming noise sensitivity. Sheila, my 2-year-old boxer, likes to jump up and give people hugs. Oh, no matter what I try to stop it, it still happens. Advice. Okay, so Sheila, my first question to you is, who reinforces the behavior? Does somebody in your family? So remember what I just said about Wicca? She jumps on people. One of the main reasons she's this bad is because most of my friends encourage it. I could have worked really hard and prevented it from happening, but honestly, I couldn't be bothered. 90% of the people we deal with are totally fine. She's little, she's 30 pounds. She's not a violent jumper. Like some dogs jump like this and they hurt. She just comes up and lands. So yeah, so if you want to stop your 2-year-old from jumping, PAP, prevent, alternative, practice. Prevent, he is on a leash and always managed when there's people that will reinforce the jumping. And what I mean by reinforce the jumping, if you look at the dog, talk to the dog, touch the dog in any way, shape, or form, you are reinforcing the jumping, which is why it's so hard to get rid of. Telling them to get down, reinforcing the jumping. So that means he's on leash or managed when the opportunity to jump on people is there. Then you also practice approaching people and asking them to sit. So I start 15 feet away. Can you sit? Reward, 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 release, break, take a couple steps. Can you sit? Reward, reward. And I do that all the way till I can approach the people and he can sit. And then I'll work on the people petting him and he can still stay sitting. And then you practice that. So that's the whole problem solving for jumping. Now putting that into reality is where it becomes really challenging, and why I let Wicca jumping was like, meh, not worth the effort. Is the guarding a separate thing? Nicole, is the guarding a separate thing? Guarding is fear-based. Guarding is scarcity. I won't have enough of that. So my border collie, who was fear reactive and the whole bit, he would guard a stick in the middle of the forest, which makes no sense. There's 100 sticks. Why are you guarding one? But he would go into this mine. And I managed it well, but I could never totally get rid of it. It sounds, because your dog has just started guarding, it doesn't sound that bad. But if you can build that confidence, the guarding, I find, naturally will go away. Is he guarding or is she? I can't remember. Wait, there's another. Oh, is your dog guarding from people or just other dogs? Stephanie, my hound can detect another dog around a corner or out of sight. She will immediately bolt to see her next best friend. Unleash her off. She's not interested in food or toys. How do I get her to think I'm sexier? I love that you want your dog to think you're sexier. Check out my stuff on ODR game. So the first game I would play with this dog would be the Get It game. Teaching her, because everything you're saying to me is she has lack of self-control. Because I see it, I want it. So the Get It game is going to work with self-control. The Get It game is you hold the dog's collar, you toss a cookie out in front of her, and you wait till she calms herself down before you say get it. So it's teaching a dog, if you want that, you need to calm down. So you hold her collar and you wait till 4 paws on the floor. She's done the bucking and the bronco and the whole bit. Then you say, get it. And that would be the first step. And then you build from that. But it's teaching her to understand not everything you see is available or smell, being a hound. She is not interested in food or toys all the time, or is she just not interested once she sees the other dog or smells the other dog or thinks the other dog's available? Okay, Nadine, my female dog is recently adopted October 14th. She is a shelter rescue coming in pregnant in July. Delivered 11 pups at the shelter, and they and she were adopted by October 15th. She is sweet, has a lovely disposition, probably shepherd and lab, great with our grandkids and all people. That's awesome. Probably used to running free. I think she came off a local First Nations reserve. October, she was tired postpartum. Now she gets her strength. She has gone from loose leash walking to pulling. We live in damn cold at times, Saskatchewan. I was treating her to train her to walk beside me in October and part November. Now she's pulling. That's dangerous in icy streets. I'm 60 and don't want to fall, but my fingers are freezing now. Any ideas? Okay. I'm going to put in the comments, I'm going to write a note. I'm going to put the links to the Get It game and to the ODR game handout. She needs ODR. So one thing, I would start with the Get It game that I just talked about for the previous question. So start with that. Is there any way this dog can get exercise without being on leash? Really hard to take a dog who hasn't had enough exercise and then try to teach them to be good on leash. You want to run her, exercise her, and then come back and go, okay, now we're going to practice walking on leash. Okay, Andrea, not yet. They will meet January 5th. Don't want her to lick the puppy. She licks other dogs. The other dogs get annoyed. I'm more worried about introducing her to a new puppy. Andrea, I want you to watch them when they meet. Like I said, start them divided. And even if my puppy and my adult dog get along great, my puppy's going to spend a lot of time in an X pen. And I think that's good because I think allowing the puppy to harass the adult dog over and over and over, I don't think that's fair. But I wouldn't stress about, I would not be stressed about my adult dog licking the puppy too much. And the puppy will quickly say, I like that or I don't. But I would supervise and keep it short times of introduction so that she doesn't overly lick the dog. I hope that helps, Andrea. Define ODR game. Oh, I am sorry, I haven't defined ODR game. ODR stands for observe, don't react. Everything I teach starts with ODR game in some way, shape, or form. And it's, think about it. What are all our problems with our dogs? It's when they can't calmly watch something, right? So all the pulling questions, even the guarding questions, all the recall questions, it's all the ability to keep their brain in their head. That's what ODR game. It starts with the Get It game because I want the dog to be super comfortable having my hand in his collar. Most dogs, when you grab their collar because they get their collar grabbed when they're in trouble, are possibly reactive or very, very uncomfortable. So I want that gone. The Get It game teaches my dog to be calm, look ahead for the treat, and then when she's calm, get it and let it go. I will post videos in the comments when I'm done. Okay, so there's that. Then the ODR game, first you're holding their collar, now you're holding their leash, and the leash is anchored to your body, and the dog again learns to watch things. So the hound that was, I love every dog I meet, ODR game teaches her to see the dog and not need to go towards the dog. Therefore building, the owner said, I loved it, I want to be sexier for my dog. And when she learns not to go for the dog and then learns to default to you because you become the only thing available, then you become more sexy to your dog. So that's the ODR game. There's piles of Facebook Lives. I will post the comment. I've done a whole Facebook Live on ODR. So that'll give you all the details you're looking for. DL Banks. She loves to play, but as soon as the loud noise comes, she cowers. She worries about the ceiling fan and keeps looking up. So I try to feed high value treats and have my wife turn on the light switch, which she associates with the fan going on. She's very smart and loves training until a loud sound, track, or anything loud that she stops. Okay, I want you to record a loud sound, or like I said, food bowl, quietly. Like, so put it on your cell phone and start it at volume 1. Can you play with me at volume 1? And just leave it running. Put it on a loop, leave it running. Can you play with me at volume 1? That'll be it for that section. And then the next session, can you play with me with volume 1? She's like, woohoo, now that sound predicts us playing. So I would stay at that level until she's like, woohoo, we can play at volume 1. Great. Can you play at volume 2? And you build up from there. Don't make a truck going by and go, can you play? And a truck goes by and she's like, no. You want to record that truck, and I bet you there's an app with all these sounds. Record that sound and put it in a different, put your cell phone in the next room. Can she play? Can she go, okay, I can do it, even though that's there. Okay, try that. Stephanie, at the moment, Stephanie, you had the hound dog. Okay, at the moment, I get it. Yeah, so she's good with toys and food. So I want you to start training with her when there is no distractions. Stupid pet tricks. Can she sit? Can she spin? Can she down? Can she give a paw? Build value for you without the other dogs there. First, build value for you with no distraction. I had to start my puppy in the bathroom when there was nothing going on. And then she was like, oh, look, you are fun. And then you build from there. Okay, an example of an ODR game. So I am working with a reactive big dog. And we go to Canadian Tire, which for those Americans is like a big hardware store, car stuff, whatever. And we would sit outside, and he was good at 20 feet, never reacted, but definitely uncomfortable with the odd person. And it was weird. Like, we couldn't figure out what, but the odd person, he was like, oh. So I'm holding his collar, person comes into sight, I reward until the person leaves the site. After about 3 or 4 of those, I wait till he locks in on the person. So you're standing there, you're looking at the dog, person comes into sight, and some of the people he would kind of look at and go, well, whatever, and look around, right? But some of the people he would look and go and stare, those are the ones I rewarded, because those are the ones that made him uncomfortable. When you're fearful or excited, you focus. When you're not fearful or excited, you look around. So that's where we stayed with this dog. I didn't want to go any further because he was still, you could tell there were some people he was like, I'm not sure about them. Could have been what they were wearing, could have been how they smelled, could have been, it doesn't matter. So every time somebody appeared, pretty soon after we did this, maybe the second session, third session, he didn't care. He would just look, be like, oh, look, it's a person. And then he'd continue to look around. There was a lot going on. It was a parking lot. So there was lots of stuff to look at. But whenever he locked in, he got rewarded. Then the next step would be like, oh, the collar, hold the leash. This was a 100-pound plus dog. So holding the collar is really comfortable, and you're comfortable and safe holding the collar. So then hand on my body, holding the dog. Can the dog now do it on a loose leash? Can he look at the person but not step forward and pull his brain out of his head? Can he just look? Went through that again and again. How quickly this happens depends on the dog. I might be for 8 sessions on this exercise. Changing the times of day, how busy it is might help. So DL, does that give you an idea of how I use ODR game? Sky, can a gentle leader help with walking our lab mix? He pulls so much on a walk. Yes, a gentle leader, a halty. There is lots of anti-pulling devices. Here's my thing. If you don't change what caused your dog to learn to pull, you don't change what you're doing, the odds of it helping long term are a lot less. I have a walking a loose leash live. I will put the link at the end of the walking loose leash, at the end of the live. Sherry, how are you, Sherry? Barking at home. Sometimes it sounds like I have a pack of feral coyote dogs that live here, particularly when I'm trying to listen to a class. How can this be more easily managed? It's hard because you have how many dogs in the house and you have Aussies. So, do they bark at stuff in particular, or does just one bark and then everybody starts to bark? Or do they hear somebody drive down the road and that's what gets them barking and then they just can't calm down? Tell me more about that, Sherry. Good. Nadine, you're running her off leash in the baseball diamond. Make that your priority and then try to walk 10 steps. Can you walk on a loose leash? Don't try to go for a walk. Try to walk 10 steps. Try to walk up and down your driveway. When people think of walking on leash, they think of walks. When I think of walking on leash, I think of success. My goal is to not let you pull. If that means 3 steps one direction, 3 steps the other direction, and then we go home, that's perfectly fine, as long as we had a successful walk. As soon as I try to go distance around the block, I will end up with pulling because otherwise you don't get anywhere. But then you're defeating the whole point. Nicole, other dogs and people. I noticed she could get a bit snappy with other dogs when it comes to toys, but I also started noticing it when I took her to my mom's place. A couple of times she had something she wasn't supposed to, and my mom would approach and she would get snarly. I am not sure how to work on her confidence in this. Okay, so does she, how I start this is let her have something she's allowed to have, and I walk up and throw cookies at her head. What I'm looking for is when I approach, the dog stops chewing whatever they have and look up and go, hey, how are you? Because I have higher value things than the thing they have. So I would do this with her food bowl. I would do it with toys. I would do it with beds. So usually dogs that guard tend to start guarding everything. Guarding grows. That's why it's so important to keep it well under control, and that's not by suppression, but that's building confidence and value for when they have stuff. Remember, she is it's scarcity. It's a scarcity mindset. She keeps it because she's scared to lose it. The more confident she becomes about not losing it, the less likely she'll worry about it. So she's got a toy. You walk up, literally. I like food that throws well, so freeze-dried liver doesn't work that great because it's too light. Breakfast sausage cuts up nice and small. Hot dog, something. You approach, you throw food. I hit her in the head so she sees it, and then I walk away. And I keep doing that till literally you walk up and she's like, hey, you reward, walk away. I do not touch the item. If I need to get the item, I can walk up to her. When she looks up, I call her out, I reward her, ask her to sit, and then go pick up the item. Once you can do it, then have family members do it. If it's a little child, I would do it, but I hold their hand as we walk by and maybe possibly throw. But what I want to teach the dog is this person approaching, good things happen. This person approaching, good things happen. And you just keep working that, and you should see her start to get more comfortable. I would also do it with her food bowl. So guarding, there's a lot of signs of guarding long before they growl. Speeding up. If you approach them while they're chewing a toy and they start to chew harder, that's guarding. Hovering, where they kind of put their bodies over it, definitely guarding. Freezing, giving you, like they look at you out of the side of their eye, the whites of their eyes you can see. Freezing, if they all of a sudden stop moving, that's guarding. There's lots of signs before you see the actual growl or snarling. Amanda, how do I know if my dog is getting enough exercise? Oh, that's such a loaded question. 11-month-old male German Shepherd. I grew up with GSD, but they were trained to run and explore as they wanted on my dad's 100-acre lucky dogs. We have a few acres, but don't let him off leash. So take him for 2 walks a day and play games with him inside. He is also reactive dog, so our walks are often more time spent on ODR. Oh, I love that you're using ODR. Okay, Amanda, I'm not sure where you live. I'm not sure how doable this is for you, but yes, I would say your dog needs some off-leash exercise. If you're in town, softball diamonds, if you need to close them off, newer softball diamonds only have the openings at the dugouts. So I suggest you get a piece of temporary fencing and like just the plastic stuff that you can roll up. Carabiners, shut off the exits. At least he can go for a run in there. And you can play recall games in there. You can hide his food around so he's running around the whole time. Lots of games to play. If you live anywhere near the country, find access roads, snowmobile trails to take him off leash, places where the odds of him seeing a dog are almost non-existent. But yeah, you're going to have to, ideally, you find a way to get him to exercise a little more. So I love the fact that you're doing ODR, but yeah, he needs some exercise. Yeah, depends where you live. If you're local to me, message me and I'll give you some ideas of exercising. Unfortunately, if you're not, I'm sure Facebook has somewhere a post that might give you more information. Okay, Sky, you are, thank you so much, Sky. One particular teacher's voice, honestly, Sherry, when I listen to dog training, I have to wear my headphones because Wicca gets all perturbed and starts running around, especially if it's me training. She can't do it. So I would, knowing how many dogs you have, I would think it would be easier to keep headphones on than to try to train them all to be quiet. If they're going to do their true Caillou impression, it's Tori that starts it. When they hear the teacher, it's mad barking. So when you're listening to that teacher, give Tori a frozen Kong. Honestly, manage it would be the easiest way to do that. Nadine, great advice. Thank you. Thank you, Nadine. I'm so happy. We're in Chelsea. No softball diamonds available. There is one dog park, but smallish, and we can't be in a dog park if other dogs were around. And Quebec is super serious about their off-leash laws. Do you have soccer fields, Amanda? We don't let him off leash yet without fenced in. I'm worried about his recall. How do I know gain confidence in his recall? He's got out a few times. Kids let him out and he's come back to me, but I'm worried he won't come back to me if I'm worried he won't come of these times. Maybe just my own anxiety. Without a doubt, Amanda, the letting your dog off leash is one of the scariest things in the world till you're comfortable doing it. At least you have a German Shepherd who is definitely a breed who doesn't wander away on a whole. Not saying he'll always come when called, but he doesn't leave. So I have building the invisible leash protocol. I start with somewhere that is fenced. I have used tennis courts. I have used ball diamonds. I have used, because there might not be ball diamonds in Chelsea, but you got to have ball diamonds somewhere. I have used schoolyards. Schoolyards are pretty well fenced. So places like that. I take my dog there. I leave him on a long line for my comfort. I take him off the leash, but leave the long line dragging. So I'm not holding the long line, he's dragging it. And I wander away. And if my dog comes up to me, I reward him and I turn and walk away. I'm always walking away from my dog and reinforcing him coming back to me. Running a dog off leash is not about coming when called, though that is an important component. It's about the dog naturally learning to stay close. And close is relative. My comfort range is about 50 to 75 feet. But if I'm running in my own forest, it can be longer. It's relative. It's relative to where I am. If I'm somewhere I don't know, I would like them to stay closer. And how I control that is teaching them, if you go one way, I go the other. So you let them go, you let them run around, and then you just wander around in this fenced in area. Anytime your dog chooses to come near you, here you go, high value reward, walk away. Then I go to a new area and a new area. So it's more teaching him to want to stay, not just teaching him to come. Usually the worst place to do this is in your own backyard because the comfort level is comfort, 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 comfort. And now they've gone outside of your yard and now you're that panicked calling and that's when they don't come. So that's what I would suggest. Okay, we have a couple more questions that were sent in ahead of time and then we're going to wrap it up. We have a 23-month-old Australian Bernedoodle. That's a lot of dogs. We have worked hard at training her, but having difficulty with alert barking. So your Berner is a guard dog and your Aussie is definitely a barker. So you've got two possible barkers. She's worse in the evening. We've been putting her on leash and tethering her to us, as well as rewarding her for stopping when we say enough. But the barking persists. She's also barking to get our attention. Okay, you have two Aussies are serious barky breed. Not saying they will bark, just saying the potential is there. So the fact that you're rewarding her for stopping is partly rewarding her for barking. For alarm barking, I tend to be like, I might interrupt by going, hey, what are you doing? But I don't really stress about alarm barking because they tend to outgrow it. Putting her on leash and just holding her collar would be lovely. That usually helps them get back in their body, but it's very typical of a young dog to alert bark. Though she's getting 23 months, is getting older. She should be outgrowing it. Let me know if it's getting worse or better. The fact that it persists still, I'm curious if you're reinforcing it by trying to stop it. She is also barking to get our attention. So barking is one of those things that ignoring is almost impossible because your brain explodes. So what I teach my dog, I don't teach my dogs, this is what I do. When they bark, I play, oh, you must want to go in your crate. You're barking at me. And I take them by the collar and put them in their crate. Keep in mind, my dogs are super reinforced for going in their crate. This is not by any means hard. It's not hard to catch them. As soon as I walk towards their crate, they jump right in. And I'll give them cookies for going in. Is this a punishment? No, it's not a punishment, but it stops them from barking. It interrupts, it turns the page, right? I might let them out in 2 minutes, but what it is if you bark at me, oh, you must want to go in the crate. Here you go, bye-bye. Because ignoring barking is almost impossible. So I'd definitely be doing this with your dog, Sarah, and seeing how it goes. Rebecca, we adopted an 11-month-old husky mix who pulls a lot on her leash while walking. We try to stop until they're slack on the leash, but it goes forever. Any suggestions? She's also distracted by people and dogs. Rebecca, she would be a great candidate for my canine reset, but the first thing I would work on is ODR game. I will post the link to the live on ODR game. But is she getting exercise off leash where she gets to be a dog and gets to, people now call them decompression walks, but it's a time and place where your dog just gets to be a dog. If you can't take them off leash, you could also do decompression walks, maybe with the shepherd, on a long line and a harness. So, and I don't do decompression walks where I do walks. So on the sidewalk, I do walk. A decompression walk would be in a park where I'm going to let the dog sniff and be a dog. You need a time, your dogs need times to just be dogs. Donna, our 7-month-old lab gets excited and jumps on people when he first sees them. We tell him no and stay down and pull him down. But because he's so excited, he doesn't listen. We tell visitors to tell him the same. Is there anything else we could do, or is it just his age? Donna, I've talked about this before in our talk, but telling him to get down and to stay down is reinforcing the jumping behavior. Management is the only way to prevent him from getting down, from getting up. So you could stand on his leash in such a way that he can stand up or sit, but he can't jump. A tether, so an eye hook into a baseboard near a front door. So again, if he goes to jump, it just stops him. And eventually he'll sit because that's how he's comfortable. And people can approach him and be like, hey, how are you? How's it going? Be very careful letting your company train your dog, because chances are they're not going to do what you want them to do because everybody's a dog trainer and everybody knows better. So yeah, management. Your 7-month-old jumps because people are reinforcing it. Otherwise he wouldn't. I've had dogs that don't jump. I just don't right now. Both of them jump because I can't be bothered to fix it. Okay, guys. that is all our questions for today. Thank you so much for joining us. This went a little longer than expected. Our next Facebook Live is January 8th. I'm very excited. It was a very exciting topic, um, which is don't forget to check your bits. All all the bits that make up dog training. Have a happy new year. If you have any questions, feel free to add them to the comments and I will check back later. Have a happy new year and we will see you all in 2021. We love their hugs. Thank you, Sherry. Bye, guys.